Have you ever wondered what it truly means to survive? To live, not just breathe? In a time when a deadly disease spreads through the land, I found myself fighting not only for my body but for my very soul. The world around me fell silent, and yet I learned more than I ever thought possible about strength, fear, and the fragile thread that connects us all. Join me as I tell you the story of how I survived and what I discovered along the way. Hello everyone, I know you watch this video to accompany you to sleep. So if you like this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, don't forget to tell me where you are from and what time you watched this video. Let's jump straight into the story. You never thought it would come to your village. The sickness had been spoken of in hushed tones by merchants passing through the market, by cloaked pilgrims avoiding the taverns, by soldiers who kept their distance even from the warmest of hearths. They said it burned from within. They said it turned skin against itself. They said it spread with touch, with sweat, with sin. But it always seemed like a thing far away, a curse meant for the southern cities, where flesh was traded like spices and prayers were sold alongside pleasure. Not for you, not for Thornwick. You had lived simply, honestly. You cut timber in the mornings, hauled stones in the afternoons, and kept to yourself when the candles were snuffed out. Your hands were thick with callus, your muscles carved by toil. You weren't holy, but you weren't wicked. You had laid with a woman or two when winter nights grew long, and you had drunk to forget the ache in your bones. But never once did you believe that such small indulgences could summon ruin. Then came the fever. It didn't start with a wound. It started with restlessness. Your limbs twitched in your sleep, your tongue felt heavy in your mouth, and your thoughts wouldn't settle. You paced your cottage at night, your breath clouding the air, though the fire still burned. You told yourself it was just the change in seasons, summer slipping into autumn, but then came the sweat, not from labor, but from your body turning against itself. You would wake soaked, shivering, your sheets clinging to you like wet cloth. And then came the pain. Deep, throbbing, private, a place you had never felt pain before, a place no man speaks of easily. The first sore was small. You noticed it while relieving yourself by the old tree near the well. A tiny welt, dark around the edges, tender to the touch. You paused, stared, then turned your eyes away. You didn't want to know. You didn't want to believe. But by the third day, there were more. You washed with cold water. You boiled herbs. You crushed garlic between stones and pressed the paste into your skin. You whispered old prayers you barely remembered from your childhood, calling on saints you never once believed in, but nothing helped. The pain deepened. Your joints began to ache and your legs felt hollow as though the strength had been drained from them. You could barely climb the ladder to the loft where you slept. You told no one. You knew what would happen if they found out. You had seen what they did to the miller's daughter when she started coughing blood. She was 14. They said she had taken too many lovers, that she had been punished by the Lord. They dragged her into the forest with nothing but a blanket and left her for the crows. She screamed until she was too hoarse to scream anymore. No one went after her. No one even spoke her name again. So you learned to hide the smell of rot with vinegar. You stuffed moss into your linens. You walked with a limp and blamed it on an old wound. You forced yourself to smile at the baker's wife and nod at the guardsman at the gate. You became a shadow of yourself, wrapped in silence and dread. Every day you woke expecting to find your body further undone. Every night you prayed, not for salvation, but for the strength to endure one more day. You had no guide, no healer, no divine voice to tell you what to do. You had only your will. And in those early days, it was not courage that kept you alive. It was shame. The shame of being seen. The shame of being cast out. The shame of being named unclean in a world that had no mercy left for broken things. Still you endured, alone, afraid, but not yet finished. You began to track the days by the way your body felt upon waking. There were no clocks in Thornwick, and the sun, when it rose, was often shy behind clouds. But you learned the rhythm of your pain. On some days it stayed beneath the skin like a sullen dog, gnawing quietly at your strength. On others it flared into something wild, something sharp and cruel that made you grip the edges of the table just to stay upright. Your knees buckled without warning. Your urine stung like fire. Sometimes you passed blood. Always in secret. You became clever in the ways of hiding. You left your cottage only when others would end. At see you, you wrapped cloth around your waist beneath your tunic, thick enough to absorb what leaked from you, though you feared the smell might still betray you. You chewed mint leaves until your jaw ached, hoping to mask whatever foulness drifted from your breath. You learned which herbs dulled the pain just enough to move. St. John's wort, feverfew, crushed willow bark steeped in rainwater. None cured you, but they made survival less unbearable. Your work suffered, the stones you carved were uneven. Your hands trembled too much to chisel straight. The overseer said nothing, but his gaze lingered longer each time you passed him. Others, too, began to look at you strangely. The butcher's boy flinched when you brushed his arm at the stall. The tanner's wife whispered something behind her veil as you crossed the village green. You heard the word tainted, not said aloud, but mouthed. You read it on her lips like a curse. You tried to ignore it. You tried to believe that if you just kept your head down, if you endured long enough, the sickness might pass through you, like a storm that breaks against the mountains and then is gone. But deep down, you knew it wasn't that simple. This disease wasn't passing. It was settling, digging in, making a home of your flesh. Still, you held on. There were nights you nearly gave in, when your skin burned so hot you tore the tunic from your chest, when your legs cramped so hard you wept, when the sores split and bled and left your sheets sticky and blackened. You lay awake in the darkness, teeth clenched, staring at the beams above you and thought, this is it. This is the night I die. But the night always passed. And each morning you woke surprised, exhausted, drenched in your own stench, but alive. It was not strength that carried you through those days, nor faith, not even hope. It was something quieter, something colder. The sheer refusal to die for no reason. You hadn't done anything truly wicked. You hadn't stolen. You hadn't murdered. You hadn't betrayed your neighbors. All you'd done was reach for warmth in a world that gave so little of it. If that was a sin, then let the world choke on its righteousness. And so, you endured. You did not call it victory. You did not call it healing. You only called it next, the next breath, the next hour, the next day. A slow crawl through pain and silence, one heartbeat at a time. The world around you did not stop turning just because you were dying. That was the cruelest part. The sun still rose behind the mist. The hens still pecked at the dirt outside your window. The blacksmith still sang as he worked, off-key and without shame. You heard laughter now and then, children chasing one another down the lane, lovers whispering beneath trees, and it struck you like a knife to the ribs. How could they go on so easily while your body betrayed you with every passing day? But you envied them, not because they were happy, but because they still belonged to the world. You had become a creature of the in-between, half in shadow, half in memory. You walked the village with your hood low, your eyes to the ground, and you spoke only when spoken to. Every glance cast your way felt sharp, suspicious. You had become a man who might be followed, a man who might be whispered about when backs were turned. There was a time not long ago when people greeted you by name, when your hands were trusted to raise walls and mend fences, when your place in the rhythm of the village was firm, even if uncelebrated. Now, even the dogs turned from you. They smelled something you could not hide, something not meant to live. You stopped going to the tavern. You stopped trading in person. You gave silver to a shepherd boy to leave food near your door, bread, roots, salt pork when it could be spared. You knew the boy had been told to stay away. His mother likely warned him, perhaps with fear in her voice or with disgust. Yet he came, never speaking, never looking you in the eye. You never asked him why. Some things are better left unspoken, especially kindness. Especially when it costs someone else nothing and means everything to you. Your nights became longer, not because they stretched in time, but because they swelled with thoughts you could not put down. You began to wonder what sins, real or imagined, had led you here. You tried to count them. You tried to name them. Was it lust, pride, despair? You had never forced yourself on anyone, never beaten a child, never spat in a priest's face. And yet you were marked and others were not. You began to question the very nature of the affliction. Was it truly punishment, or simply the randomness of a broken world? You had heard old travelers speak of illness like it was a demon that moved unseen from flesh to flesh, uncaring who it chose. You remembered a tinker once, many years ago, who said that disease was not moral. It did not care who prayed and who sinned. It simply was, like fire, like famine. It burned where it cowled. And those who survived were not always the righteous, just lucky, or stubborn, or forgotten. And you, by some bitter chance, were not yet dead. You took to walking at night when the village slept. Your joints protested, but the cool air gave you small relief. The stillness helped too. No eyes, no questions, just you, the wind, and the stars that blinked indifferently above it all. There was no peace in your heart, but there was distance, and in that distance something close to quiet. It wasn't hope that began to return, no. Hope had long since fled, perhaps on the day the sickness had first curled its fingers around your bones. Hope, you realized, was something fragile, something you could not rely on when the world seemed set on breaking you. No, what crept back into your chest was something darker, something steadier. It was determination, a kind of quiet defiance against the sickness that had slowly become a part of you. You hadn't asked for it, but it had found its way inside your flesh, and now you would find a way to live despite it. As the days passed, the sores became worse, more numerous. They spread like small fires across your skin, curling in places you would have never thought to look before. There was a part of you, somewhere deep inside, that wanted to scream, to tear at your flesh and tear out the sickness with it. But you had learned early on that screaming made nothing better. No one would come to your aid. No one would take pity on you, so you did not scream. Instead, you found a different kind of power in silence. You began to learn the land better than you ever had before. The forest beyond Thornwick had always been a place of passing interest to you, a backdrop for your day-to-day life, but now you saw it with new eyes. The land was alive with secrets, with ancient wisdom that the village had long forgotten. You knew which herbs grew along the creek beds, which roots could settle a fever, which leaves could draw the poison from your blood, though you were unsure if they would work for your affliction. Yet you gathered them anyway. You knew deep down that these plants would not cure you, but perhaps they would dull the pain, or give you strength, or grant you a moment of peace before the next ache tore through your body. You stopped going to the village well in the mornings. You had always prided yourself on the simplicity of your life, on the fact that you were a part of the world without needing to be the center of it. But now you could no longer bear the weight of those glances, those knowing looks that hung in the air like the summer heat. The villagers didn't speak your name in the same way anymore. They said nothing at all. They moved in groups now, in clusters, whispering softly, averting their eyes when you passed. It was as if you had become something inhuman, not just because of the sickness, but because of the silence you wore like a cloak around your shoulders. The silence you had wrapped yourself in to protect yourself from the judgment of others. But the silence grew heavier as the weeks wore on. You began to feel the weight of it, like stones placed one by one upon your chest. You no longer knew what it was to speak without the fear of revealing too much. The thought of breaking the silence was terrifying, but even more terrifying was the possibility of being swallowed by it entirely. And that was the thing. You knew now, as you hadn't known before, that you were slowly becoming someone who had no place in the world. You were not the man who could be seen or touched. You were a shadow now, a ghost walking among the living. Yet there was still something that kept you going. It was not courage, nor was it pride. It was the same thing that kept the animals of the forest moving, the same thing that kept the grass growing even through the coldest winters. It was life. The simple act of continuing. Each breath you took, each step you managed to drag your foot forward, was an act of resistance against the inevitability that loomed over you. You couldn't explain it, but the simple act of surviving seemed to carry more weight now than any victory ever had. Perhaps that was what it meant to truly live, to endure in spite of everything. Perhaps it was the very act of surviving the way you had, day after day, hour after hour, that made you worthy of being alive. Not because you had done anything grand or noble, but because you had simply refused to fall. But even this, you realized, was not enough. There were days when the loneliness became unbearable, when your own reflection in the cracked mirror that hung above your hearth seemed to mock you. You could see the hollow in your cheeks, the gauntness of your eyes, and the way your skin had become a map of your suffering. You wanted to look away, but you could not. There was no one else left to look at but yourself. It was in those moments that you found yourself walking to the farthest edge of Thornwick, where the land met the CL. There the wind howled like a voice that had been long forgotten, and the sea crashed relentlessly against the jagged rocks below. You stood there at the edge, staring out at the endless expanse of water and sky, and you let yourself feel it all: the isolation, the pain, the fear, the rage. You let the wind bite at your skin and sting your eyes. You let the salt water wash over your lips as you stared into the abyss below, wondering if it might be easier to simply step off the edge and let it take you. But you did not. Instead, you turned around, your feet dragging against the earth as you began your walk back to Thornwick. Something in you had shifted. The fear of what was coming had not disappeared, but it had lessened. You no longer feared the darkness that followed you. You no longer feared the sickness that burned through your veins. You feared only one thing now: the thought of giving in. And so, you survived. You find yourself walking deeper into the isolation. It's not the physical distance that creates the rift, though it's certainly a part of it, but the slow, creeping disconnection from everything you once knew. You've always known the boundaries of the world, the dark stretch of the forest, the well-worn paths that lead into the village, the low hills that shielded Thornwick from the worst of the storms. You knew the cadence of life: work at sunrise, meals at dusk, sleep by the fire. And now, all of it feels distant, as if those simple rhythms of life are out of reach, stolen by something far more powerful than you could have imagined. Sickness doesn't just tear at your body, it unravels the thread that once held your world together. There are mornings when you wake and forget where you are for a moment, as if you are someone else in a place that is not your own. The cottage feels smaller, the shadows longer. The fire no longer holds warmth the way it used to. Instead, it flickers like an insult to your aching bones. You sit before it in silence, watching the embers as they crackle and die. You stare, your hands trembling, your thoughts wild. Was it always this dark here? Had you always been this alone? Your isolation is like the walls of your body closing in on themselves. The more you endure, the more the world outside becomes a distant echo, a faint memory of something you could once touch but no longer can. It is easier now to stay hidden within your home, to avoid the pity in others' eyes. Even the thought of going to the market fills you with dread. You're afraid someone might finally confront you, call you out, speak the truth they all suspect. You don't want to hear it. You don't want to be that man. The one who carries a curse, the one who spreads infection, the one whose very breath poisons those around him. It's easier not to go, easier to avoid the eyes, the whispers, the pity. You never see the miller anymore. Once he'd offered you a hearty laugh in the tavern, a slap on the back when you'd helped him with his carts. Now he stays in his shop, his door shut tight. You haven't seen him in weeks, nor the blacksmith whose hammer you used to hear ringing clear and steady with every dawn. You don't know if they're hiding from you or if it's just that they've come to know what you are, what you've become. The disease has not just taken your body, it's taking you from them, slowly, piece by piece. Not through words, but through the mere presence of your affliction, through your silence. Even the weather feels different now. It is not that it has changed, but that you have. The rain falls in heavier sheets, the wind feels colder. The sun doesn't seem as bright when it breaks through the clouds. You begin to wonder if it's the world that has changed or if it's you, and you realize that you've become so absorbed in your own suffering that you can no longer perceive anything outside of it. The world no longer feels alive, it feels distant. Everything has been muted. The life you once knew is a memory now. And then there are the nights. The nights are the hardest. It is there in the dark when the pain rises to its peak, clawing at you from within. You can hear it then, the deep gnawing sound of the disease moving beneath your skin. You can feel the sores as they swell and break, one after the other. You can feel the blood burning beneath the surface, and you know it's only a matter of time before your body gives out completely. But there is something else too, something more disturbing. The dreams. The dreams have become nightmares, twisted things where you see the faces of those you once knew, but they are not as they once were. They have changed. The miller is now a hollow-eyed man who shuns you, his fingers curling as if they are claws. The baker's wife smiles, but her teeth are like daggers. You see the priest, his face a mask of judgment, his eyes glaring at you from the shadows. You try to run, but your legs are weak. You try to scream, but your throat is dry. The voices of those you once cared for are drowned out by the hollow sound of your own breath. And when you wake, you can still hear the echo of those voices in your mind. They stay with you all day, clouding your thoughts, pulling you deeper into the pit of your own fear and despair. Yet, even with the nightmares, there is something unsettlingly real about the dreams. They feel more like memories than they do figments of your mind. You begin to wonder if these visions are not just the sickness twisting your mind, but something more. Are these the faces of the people who once would have helped you if they had known? Are these the faces of the ones you've lost to your own isolation? It's almost as if the disease is reaching into your soul and pulling out the parts of you that still longed for connection, for warmth, for touch. The silence becomes louder, and the loneliness, it begins to eat at your soul. One night, after a fitful sleep full of troubling visions, you rise from the bed and step outside. The air is crisp, biting even. You clutch your coat tight against your body as you walk toward the cliffs again. The sound of the ocean is like the rhythm of your heartbeat, relentless and steady. The stars above twinkle faintly, distant and cold. It is there in the open air, with the wind howling in your ears, that you finally understand the full weight of your solitude. The sickness has not just taken your body, it has stripped away everything that tethered you to the world of the living. You are no longer part of the village, no longer part of anything. You are the last of your kind, a creature in the wilderness, standing on the edge, staring into the abyss. But still, you do not give in. You turn away from the cliffs, not because you no longer think of stepping into the darkness, but because there is one final thing that keeps you from it. A flicker of something, a glimmer of a thought that you have not fully understood until now. The thought lingers in your mind as you begin the slow walk back to the cottage. It is not hope. It is not strength, not bravery, not even defiance. It is something far more primal, a deep-rooted instinct to continue, to refuse to let the sickness or the isolation or the whispers of the village claim you before you're truly ready. The desire to live has become so deeply ingrained in you that, in that moment, it is the only thing left, more important than fear, more important than pain, more important than everything else that has fallen away. It is in these quiet, dark moments that you realize that you are not just surviving the disease. You are surviving the isolation that the disease has forced upon you. You are surviving the slow erasure of your very existence from the world. It is not just the body that is being ravaged, but the very soul. The disease, it seems, is not merely a plague of the body, but of the spirit. For what is disease but a way to push people away, to cast them out of the fold, to make them unworthy of their place among others? Your body, yes, it hurts, but it is the silent rejection from your fellow villagers that gnaws at you deeper than any physical pain. They do not touch you, they do not speak to you, and in their eyes you have become a walking curse. You cannot blame them for their fear. You see it in their faces every time they glance your way, the mixture of pity and horror, of avoidance and distrust. You have become a pariah. And though you have always been a solitary person by nature, this is something different. You have been cast out, and even in your most desperate moments, there is no salvation. Still, there is something in your chest, something that burns, something that will not let you fade away. It is not strength, not hope, but a dull, insistent will to survive. The disease is not the only thing claiming you. The isolation does too. The way the village looks at you, the way people whisper behind closed doors, the way even the dogs shy away. You feel the walls closing in, just as they did during your darkest nights in the cottage. You feel it in every step, every word unspoken, every moment when you can't catch someone's gaze because they have already turned away from you. And yet, in the midst of this suffocating loneliness, something stirs. There is a small voice in the back of your mind, a voice that has remained hidden for so long that you almost cannot hear it anymore. It whispers something simple, something you haven't allowed yourself to say aloud. You are not the disease. It's the first time in a long while that you have thought this. For so long, you had carried the weight of the sickness like a curse. It had become your identity, so thoroughly embedded in your flesh that you thought you could no longer separate yourself from it. You had allowed yourself to become defined by the pain, by the stares, by the whispers. But now, standing on the edge of the village once more, as the cool wind cuts through the air, you realize that the disease is not you. Why? Oh, are still the same person you were before. Still the man who had lived, who had worked, who had been known and loved. The disease has taken much, but it has not taken everything. You know this even as the sores continue to spread, even as your body weakens day by day. The disease has not taken your will to fight, your desire to find meaning, to find a purpose in the ashes of the life you once had. You are still here, still standing, still breathing. And while that might not be enough for some, while the world may never look at you the same again, it is enough for you. The night you walk to the cliffs, you do not see an end in the abyss, you see the sea. The horizon, the endless stretch of sky above you, a world full of endless possibilities, though you may never reach them. You are not defeated, not yet, not in the way they think, not in the way the disease would like to claim you. You are still here, still a part of this world, still moving. The path back to your cottage feels longer this time, not because your legs are weak, not because the pain in your body has grown worse, but because you know that the walk back is not just a return to your empty home. It is a return to the struggle, to the survival, to the constant fight against the disease that claws at your body, against the isolation that gnaws at your soul, against the whispers of others who will never know your truth. You reach your door and step inside, the silence of the cottage welcoming you, as if it too has been waiting for this moment. You sit before the fire not to warm yourself, though the chill in your bones still lingers, but to feel the weight of the flame as it flickers and dances. The fire is a reminder that even in the darkest of times there is something that persists, something that refuses to be snuffed out. The fire continues, as do you. And as the flames cast their soft light across the room, you let the quiet settle into your chest. You are not the disease, you are still you. And no matter what happens next, you will survive this too. The days begin to blur together, the rhythm of time no longer marked by the rise and fall of the sun, but by the steady ache of your body, the persistent gnawing of the sickness that slowly eats away at everything you once knew. You wake each morning with the same thought, another day, just another day. It is a thought that is both weary and resolute, a fragile mantra to remind you that you are still here, still fighting against an invisible enemy that ravages you from the inside out. There are times when the sun sets and the world falls into that quiet space between day and night that you think perhaps it would be easier to simply give in, to surrender to the shadows that seem to creep closer with every passing moment. You are tired. The sickness, the isolation, the loneliness, it has worn you down in ways you never imagined. Some days the weight of it all feels unbearable, as though it could collapse the very bones of your body. You long to rest, to let the world fade away into the soft embrace of the dark. But then there are moments, small ones, brief flickers of light, when you remember the choice you made on that day by the cliffs, the choice to keep going. And so, each time the thought of surrender sneaks into your mind, you push it away, not with strength or courage, but with sheer stubbornness. You will survive this. You will. The sickness has changed you, though. You have become a stranger even to yourself. The reflection in the mirror no longer holds any familiarity. You look at your eyes, once bright and full of life, now dull and weary. Your face has become a landscape of pain, marked by the wounds that spread across your skin like scars of some forgotten battle. You no longer remember what it was like to be untouched, to move through the world without the constant weight of your affliction clinging to you like a second skin. Your body feels foreign, as though it no longer belongs to you. It is a vessel for something you did not invite, something that lingers and festers within you. Every day the pain becomes more constant, more insistent. It presses against you like a vice, squeezing the air from your lungs, making each breath feel like a struggle. The sores, once small and scattered, have spread across your body like wildfire. You try to treat them with the herbs you've gathered, plants and roots, salves and poultices, but nothing works. The sickness continues relentlessly, steadily, without mercy. There are times when you question whether these things will be the end of you, and yet you do not allow yourself the luxury of thinking about the end. The thought of it is too final, too absolute. There is still a part of you, however small, that clings to the belief that tomorrow will be different, that maybe, just maybe, you will find something to ease the pain, something to give you respite. You do not know where this hope comes from. It seems as fragile as a thread, but T is there, clinging to you with stubbornness. It is the last thing you have. The village remains distant. The people remain distant. You have stopped seeking them out, stopped trying to hide the sickness, trying to live a semblance of normal life. You don't know when it happened, when you gave up the pretense of pretending to be the man you once were. The one who worked the land, who smiled and laughed, who could talk to his neighbors without fear. That man has faded into the past, a ghost of who you once were. Now you spend your days wandering the woods and fields that surround Thornwick. It is not that you want to be alone. It is not that you have grown to enjoy the silence. It is simply the only thing you know to do. The earth, with its smells of pine and damp soil, is the only place you feel a semblance of peace. Here, you can forget. Here, you can exist without the burden of judgment, without the weight of the world pressing down on you. Here, the trees are silent witnesses to your suffering, offering you no comfort but their quiet presence. There is something about nature, you realize, that is indifferent. It does not care about the sickness that has overtaken your body. It does not care about your isolation, your pain, your suffering. It simply is. And there is a strange comfort in that. In the way the world continues on, regardless of your presence in it. The river still flows, the birds still sing, the wind still carries the scent of the earth and sky. Nature does not offer pity or sympathy. It does not look at you with sorrowful eyes. It simply exists, and for a brief moment, you wonder if perhaps that is the lesson you are meant to learn. Perhaps you are meant to exist in the same way. Not in spite of the sickness, but because of it. You begin to learn the forest in a way you never did before. You know where the wildflowers bloom, the path where the foxes roam, the trees that bear the sweetest fruit. You learn to live with the land in a different way, as if you are becoming part of it. There is a rhythm here, a pulse that beats steadily beneath the surface of everything. And though the pain in your body remains, though the sores continue to spread, you find some small solace in the understanding that you are not entirely lost. You are not abandoned. Yet in the stillness of the woods, there is always the reminder of what you are. The sickness has not let you forget. It is always there, lurking beneath the surface, a reminder that you are not whole, that you are broken in ways you cannot repair. You feel the pull of the village sometimes, especially on those nights when the wind howls and the darkness presses in too closely. On those nights, you wonder what life would be like if you were not cursed, if you could simply walk into the village and be among them again, if you could simply be a man among men instead of a shadow among the living. The thought haunts you, not with bitterness, but with a deep, aching longing, a longing that you cannot escape, no matter how hard you try. But the truth is, you no longer know how to be that person. The person you were before the sickness claimed you. That person has become a distant memory, a face you see in fleeting glimpses, a man you can no longer reach. And in that realization, there is a certain freedom. The freedom to be who you are now, to embrace the parts of you that remain, to find strength in the very things that others would shy away from. To be yourself, sick, broken, and still fighting. The days begin to stretch longer as the seasons change, and you can feel it in the air. There's a chill that begins to settle into the world, a crispness that sharpens the edges of everything around you. The leaves, once green and full of life, now turn to shades of amber and gold, and the ground becomes littered with the remnants of summer. You've always known that the seasons change. You've lived with the rhythm of the earth, the shifting of time marked not by clocks, but by the cycle of the sky, the trees, the winds. Yet now it feels different. The changing of the seasons is no longer a hopeful thing. It is not a transition you look forward to. Instead, it feels like the earth itself is moving on without you, as if the world is continuing, advancing forward, and you are stuck in the middle, unable to keep up. The disease that has claimed your body is no respecter of seasons. It does not care about the warmth of spring or the coolness of autumn. It is relentless. And yet there is a part of you that cannot help but notice the beauty in it. The way the sky deepens with the fall of dusk, the way the crisp air sharpens your breath, the way the fire in your hearth seems to burn just a little brighter in the evenings. It is the beauty of nature, not for you, but simply because it exists, and in that simple fact you find something to hold on to. You remember fleetingly that you are a part of it, that you too are a creature of the earth, of the sky, of the very fork. Ease that continue without asking for your permission. There are still moments when you wish for the life you once had. You wish for the days when you could work the land without thinking about the sickness that gnaws at your body, when you could walk into the village square and share a joke with the blacksmith, when you could hold the weight of your work without it pulling at your bones, without it pulling at your very soul. You wish for the days before the whispers, before the looks, before the loneliness became so suffocating that you could hardly breathe without feeling it pressing down on your chest. You long for the days when the world seemed wide and open, full of possibilities. But those days are gone now. And there are times when you think you might be okay with that, not because you have given up on life, but because you have accepted that this is who you are now. The man you were before, the one who could hold the world with both hands, is no more. But there is still a man who walks in the woods, who feels the wind on his face, who listens to the songs of the birds and the rustling of the trees. There is still a man who exists, who survives. It is not the same man, but it is a man nonetheless. You begin to see the world in a different way. Where once there was fear in the unknown, now there is only curiosity. You no longer shy away from the deep, hollow places in your mind where the disease dwells. Instead, you walk right into them, knowing that they will not swallow you whole, knowing that you can still stand. The pain is not the enemy. The disease is not the enemy. The true enemy is the part of you that wants to give up, that wants to believe that all is lost. And every time you stand and face it, you win a small battle. The world outside your cottage continues to change. The villagers, still whisper behind closed doors. You hear their murmurs in the wind as you walk through the trees. You hear their pity in the way their eyes avoid you when you pass. But you do not let it touch you. The whispers become nothing more than the rustling of leaves, the sound of the wind, the crackle of the fire in the hearth. They cannot reach you, not anymore. And in a strange way, you begin to feel something that you hadn't thought possible, peace. It is a peace that comes not from the absence of pain, but from the acceptance of it. The world has not ended. You are still here, still standing, still fighting. The illness may have stripped away the parts of you that you once loved, but it cannot take your will. It cannot take your capacity to adapt, to survive, to find moments of solace even in the darkest of times. It is not the peace of a man who is untroubled, unbroken. It is the peace of a man who has seen the depths of despair and has chosen to rise from them. It is the peace of someone who understands that survival does not always look the way we expect it to. That sometimes survival is not about triumph, but about endurance. It is about continuing to breathe when the world tells you that you should have stopped long ago. The evenings are the hardest. The long nights spent staring into the fire, into the blackness that wraps around you like a blanket. It is in those moments that the isolation presses hardest against your chest, when the pain becomes unbearable and the weight of everything you've lost, everything you've endured threatens to crush you. But even then, even in those darkest of moments, you hold on, not with hope, not with strength, but with a quiet, unspoken resolve. As the days grow shorter and the chill of autumn settles into your bones, a strange kind of rhythm begins to form. The outside world, with its whispering winds and shifting skies, feels distant, as though it exists only in the periphery of your life. The air has grown cold, and the fire in your hearth is no longer merely a source of warmth, but of life itself. Each flicker of the flame, each crackle in the fire's breath, seems to be a small reminder that you are still here. You have made it through another day, though you never really know if there will be another to follow. The sickness remains with you. You have grown accustomed to it in the way one grows accustomed to a weight around their neck, a constant companion that never leaves, never fades, never offers reprieve. It is not so much the physical pain that burdens you now, although that remains. It is the quiet resignation, the slow erosion of your spirit that has become more difficult to bear. You have learned to live with the pain in your body, but the silence in your soul is a deeper wound. There are times when you feel as though you are trapped between two worlds, the world of the living, where people still walk and breathe and dream, and the world of the dead, where you are slowly fading away, where every passing day feels like one more step towards some inevitable end. You walk the line between them with careful steps, knowing that the darkness in your mind is as much a part of you now as the sickness in your blood. It is not just a matter of survival anymore. It is a matter of holding on, of keeping the last shred of yourself intact. You still go into the woods, though it is no longer the same place. Where once it had been a refuge, now it feels more like a haunting. The trees, the moss, the leaves, they all seem to watch you now as if they know something you cannot yet see. The wind howls through the branches, tugging at your hair, whispering through the cracks of your soul. Sometimes, in the quiet moments between one step and the next, you swear you hear your name in the wind, carried on the breeze like a forgotten prayer. But you know that it is only the forest, speaking in riddles, speaking in shadows. Still, you continue to walk, not because you are looking for something, but because it is all that you can do. Walking is the only act of defiance you know, the only thing that keeps you tethered to the world you once inhabited. You are not yet ready to let go of the earth beneath your feet, the sky above your head. You are not yet ready to slip away, to surrender completely to the darkness that waits just outside your door. The cottage, for all its quiet solitude, has become a kind of prison. You sit by the hearth, watching the flames dance and flicker, thinking of the life you once had, the people you once knew, the days when your body was strong and your heart was light. You think of the times when laughter filled the air, when the village was a place of belonging, not fear. But those days are gone, replaced by this cold, oppressive silence. The stillness of your own company has become both a comfort and a curse. You no longer expect the world to reach out to you. You have given up on the idea of human connection, at least for now. You have come to accept the fact that the disease has taken not just your body, but your place in the world. It has marked you, branded you in ways you never thought possible. And the village, your home, has cast you out, as if you are no longer worthy of its embrace. Yet still you cannot help but feel a strange kind of peace in this isolation. The absence of others, of their judgment, of their pity, is a relief, even if it is a lonely one. In the quiet, there is no expectation, no pressure to be anything other than what you are. The disease, in its own twisted way, has liberated you from the shackles of pretense. You do not need to pretend anymore. You are simply who you are in this moment, in this time. There are no more pretenses, no more games, no more expectations. And in that raw, unfiltered space, you begin to find a kind of strength you never knew existed within you. It is not a strength of the body, not a strength that comes from physical triumph. It is a strength born of acceptance. The acceptance that you have been broken, that you have been cast aside, that you have been forgotten. But in the face of that abandonment, you refuse to break completely. You refuse to let the darkness consume you. Even though it is all you can do to hold on, you hold on with everything you have left. Sometimes in the deep of night, you wake to the sound of your own breathing, the rasp of it in the stillness of your room. The coldness in the air seeps through the cracks in the walls, and you wrap yourself tighter in the blanket, pulling it up to your chin, hoping for warmth. You close your eyes, and for a brief moment, you wonder if you will ever find the strength to leave this place, to walk back into the village and face the people who have abandoned you, to face the world you have left behind. But then, just as quickly, you let the thought go. You are not ready, not yet. The fire in the hearth crackles, sending small sparks into the air. You stare at the flames for what feels like hours, watching them dance and writhe in the dark. There is something hypnotic about fire. It is destructive, yes, but it also brings light. It illuminates the world around you, even in the darkest of nights. You are like that fire now, a spark, a flicker in the night, struggling to stay alight. You may be weak, you may be burned, but you are still burning, and as long as there is fire, there is life. Winter approaches slowly, like a shadow creeping over the land, casting its cold fingers across the village and the surrounding woods. The chill in the air becomes more biting with each passing day, and you can feel it deep in your bones, the way it settles into your skin and refuses to let go. The world outside the cottage becomes a place of ice and snow, the trees standing bare against the sky like skeletons, the earth hardened under layers of frost. You sit by the hearth more often now, the fire crackling and snapping as it fights against the cold. It is the only warmth you know, the only warmth you have left. And though you've grown used to the cold in your body, it is a different kind of cold that comes from the outside world now. It is a cold thaw. Tea feels like it might never leave. A cold that sinks into your very soul, as if the world itself is losing its ability to give warmth, to offer solace. There are times when you wake in the middle of the night, shivering, not just from the cold, but from the fear that has begun to creep into your heart. Fear of what the next day will bring, fear of what the illness will do next, fear that you might not survive this winter. Fear that, no matter how hard you try to hold on, the end might be closer than you think. The sickness inside you seems to grow worse as the nights get longer. The pain that had once been a constant companion now seems to deepen, turning sharp and insistent, making each breath feel like an effort. You wonder sometimes if this is how it will end, slowly, quietly, in the dark, with no one around to notice, no one left to care. But then you remind yourself, I am still here. That thought has become your anchor. It is the one thing you can cling to when the darkness threatens to overwhelm you, when the weight of your body feels like too much to bear. The sickness may take pieces of you, may hollow you out, but it has not taken your will to survive. Not yet. You find yourself walking through the snow more often now, leaving the cottage behind, stepping out into the harshness of winter as if to prove something to yourself. You don't know what. Perhaps it is to prove that you are still strong, still capable of facing the elements, still able to exist in the world even as it becomes a place of cold and isolation. The world outside is silent now. The village seems distant, muffled beneath the blanket of snow. The people, if they still exist, are hidden in their homes, waiting for the thaw. But you walk through the snow, the crunch beneath your boots a sound that seems so foreign to your ears, so stark and clear in the stillness of the world. The wind bites at your face and the snow stings your eyes, but you don't mind. The cold is familiar in its own way. It is nothing compared to the burning in your body, the constant ache of your soul. The snow is something you can fight against, something you can stand up to. It feels like a reminder. The world may be cold, but it is still a world that can be survived. There are moments, fleeting but real, when you wonder if the cold might just be the thing that saves you. If it might freeze the sickness inside you, halt its progress before it consumes you entirely. It is a foolish thought, of course. You know that the illness does not care for the seasons. It does not care for the cold, the snow, or the warmth of the hearth. It will not stop for anything. But still, you entertain the thought. You let yourself believe that perhaps, just perhaps, the winter will bring an end to it all. An end that is not marked by slow decay, but by sudden, unceremonious silence. But the thought of it, however brief, is like a blade twisting in your chest. It is not an end that you want, not really. You are not ready to leave this world, not in the way you imagined, not when there is still a chance to fight, to live, however difficult it might be. The sickness may have taken so much from you, but it has not taken your desire to remain. And as long as you have that, you will keep going. You return to the cottage, exhausted from the walk, but with something else, a strange sense of clarity. The snow has a way of making the world feel new, as if everything has been wiped clean, the slate refreshed. The air is thin and sharp, and the fire in the hearth crackles as if welcoming you back. There is something comforting about the flickering light, the way it casts shadows on the walls, the way it dances in the dark. The fire is the one constant in your life now. The one thing that refuses to flicker out, the one thing that always remains. It is a small comfort, but it is a comfort nonetheless. In its warmth, you find solace. In its light, you find a semblance of hope. The world may be cold, the world may be unforgiving, but for now you are here, and for now you are still burning. The illness may rage inside you, but it does not have to define you. It may strip you of your strength, of your body, but it cannot take your mind, your heart, your will. You are still here. And as long as there is breath in your lungs, as long as the fire in your heart still burns, you will continue. There is no grand revelation, there is no sudden cure, but there is a truth that settles in your chest like a stone, Survival, real survival, is not about conquering the world. It is about enduring it. Enduring the cold, enduring the sickness, enduring the loneliness. It is about finding moments of peace amidst the chaos, finding beauty in the silence, finding strength in the very things that would break you. You are not the same man you were. You will never be that man again. But you are still a man, and that, in itself, is a victory. And so, as the fire burns low, and the night presses in around you, you fin. Yourself once again embracing the silence, the stillness, the cold. You find yourself at peace with it, not because you are no longer afraid, but because you know now that the fear will never go away. You must live with it. You must walk beside it as you walk beside the sickness, as you walk beside the cold. And through it all, you will keep walking. You will keep living. The snow falls heavier now, the world outside buried beneath a blanket of white, and the nights stretch on like an unyielding stretch of time. You've long stopped counting the days. What does it matter now? Each morning is the same, each evening brings the same solitude, the same quiet, and each moment feels like a reflection of the one before it. The village, once full of life and activity, now feels like an echo of itself, the only sound the soft whisper of the wind against the walls of your cottage. Yet even in this relentless stillness, there are moments that rise to the surface like bubbles in the depths of a dark lake. Brief fragments of clarity. You begin to realize something you hadn't fully grasped before. The absence of others is not the same as loneliness. At least, not in the way you thought it would be. The loneliness you once feared, the kind that crept into your bones and made the nights unbearable, now feels less like a curse and more like a companion you have learned to live with. You have walked with it for so long that it has become a part of you, like the air you breathe, the blood in your veins. It is no longer an enemy to be fought, but a presence to be acknowledged. You are not sure how long you have been living this way, tucked away in your cottage with only the company of the wind and the snow and the fire. Time has lost its meaning. The days blend together, indistinguishable from one another, marked only by the changes in the sky, the subtle shift in the weather. The village beyond, the life you once knew, seems like a distant memory. Sometimes you wonder if it ever really existed at all, or if it was just a dream that you once held, now fading into the fog of your past. But then there are the moments of stillness, when the fire is low and the night seems to stretch on forever, that you are reminded of something even more important. You are reminded that you are still a part of that world. The world outside may be cold, may be harsh, but it is still the world you belong to. No matter how far you retreat into the solitude of your cottage, no matter how much you try to withdraw from it, the earth still turns beneath your feet, the stars still burn in the sky, and the seasons continue to change. It is an uncomfortable realization, for it reminds you that you can never truly escape. The disease has taken so much from you already. It has taken your health, your place in the village, your sense of belonging. It has turned you into something else, something strange, something other. But even in that otherness, even in the shadows where you now reside, you are still tethered to the world you once knew. The disease cannot sever that bond. It may try to isolate you, may try to convince you that you no longer have a place in the world, but the truth is more complicated than that. You are not a stranger to the world. You are simply a different part of it now. And as winter deepens, you come to accept this reality. You are no longer trying to fight against the life that has been given to you. You are not pretending that you are the same man you once were, nor are you pretending that you understand the world in the same way. But there is a quiet acceptance now, a peace that you had not expected. It is not a peace born of surrender, but a peace born of understanding. You have been broken, but you have not been defeated. The sickness inside you still gnaws at your body, each passing day a reminder of the price you have paid, but it does not consume you the way it once did. Your mind, for all its wandering thoughts and haunting questions, has begun to find stillness in the face of it. The fear you once lived with has softened, no longer an all-encompassing terror, but a quiet shadow that flits at the edge of your thoughts. You know it is there, but it no longer has the power to rule you. You have learned over time that survival is not about conquering the darkness. It is not about pushing it away, about fighting it with every ounce of strength you have. Survival is about finding your place within it. It is about learning to live with the shadows, to move through them without letting them swallow you whole. It is about embracing the silence, the emptiness, the cold, and finding something beautiful in it. The fire is low now, the last embers glowing softly in the hearth. You rise from your chair, feeling the stiffness in your legs, and make your way to the door. The snow has fallen so thickly that the world outside is barely visible, a white sea stretching endlessly in all directions. You take a deep breath, the cold air bitten. G at your lungs and step outside into the deep of winter. The cold feels different now somehow. It does not seem as threatening as it once did. The landscape is transformed in the snow, the familiar trees now mere shadows in the distance, their branches heavy with frost. The world is still, so still as if it is holding its breath, waiting for something. You wonder briefly what that something might be. Perhaps it is waiting for you to find your way back to the world. Or perhaps it is waiting for the sickness to run its course, for the end of this long and difficult journey. But then you realize that it doesn't matter. The world will move on, regardless of whether you walk with it or not. The seasons will change, the snow will melt, the village will wake from its slumber, and life will continue. And though you may no longer be a part of that life, you are still here. You still exist, still live, still breathe, and that in itself is a kind of victory. The cold does not bother you as much as it once did. You stand there for a long moment, feeling the snow beneath your boots, feeling the wind against your face. The world is empty, and yet it feels full of possibilities, full of the unknown. You are not sure where you are going or what the future holds, but for the first time in a long while, you no longer feel the weight of it pressing down on you. The days have grown longer again, the hard, biting cold of winter beginning to ease its grip, though the mornings still carry the remnants of frost, clinging to the grass and trees like a memory of the season before. You begin to notice the small changes, the subtle shifts in the air, the birds that now sing faintly in the distance, the sun that lingers a little longer before dipping below the horizon. Spring is coming, though it is not yet here. You can feel its presence on the edge of everything, just out of reach, like a dream that teases you with its promise. The cottage, once a cold refuge from the outside world, feels different now. It is still your home, the place where you have weathered the hardest part of your journey, but the walls no longer feel as confining. There is a sense of space, an openness that wasn't there before. Perhaps it is the changing season that has shifted your perception, or perhaps it is something deeper, something inside you that is quietly beginning to unfold. It is a sense of possibility, though it is faint, and you are unsure if you have the strength to fully embrace it. But it is there, like the first crack in the ice, tiny but undeniable. You still go into the woods as you always have. The silence of the trees is no longer oppressive. In fact, it has become a strange kind of comfort. The woods are still, but they are alive. You begin to recognize the patterns, the way the light shifts in the branches, the way the wind moves through the leaves, the small creatures that scurry about beneath the trees. There is life here, too. It is subtle and quiet, but it is there. You have learned to see it in ways you didn't before, to hear it in the soft rustle of the leaves or the gentle sound of a stream trickling through the forest floor. The world is not empty. It is simply waiting. The illness still resides in your body, its presence an unshakable reality that you have come to accept. There are days when it seems to retreat, when the pain in your body is a distant memory, when the weight of it lifts enough to make you feel like you might be able to breathe again. But it is never gone. It waits just beneath the surface, a quiet reminder of what you have endured. And yet, in its presence, there is also a strange peace. It has become a part of you now, woven into the fabric of your being, and though you may never be free of it, you are no longer afraid of it. You are no longer consumed by it. There are moments, though, when you are struck by a deep, aching loneliness that you cannot escape. The village remains distant, a place you no longer belong, a place you no longer know how to enter. You think of the people who once filled your life, of the faces you used to see every day, and wonder if they still remember you. Do they still think of you as you once were? Or have you become nothing more than a shadow, a fleeting memory, something that no longer exists in their world? At times, this thought gnaws at you. It makes you question your place in this world, your purpose. The isolation that has defined your existence for so long begins to feel suffocating, like a heavy cloak that you can never take off, even in the warmth of the coming spring. You wonder if it is better this way, to remain in the shadows, to stay hidden in the quiet of your cottage, away from the world you can no longer touch. There is safety in it, after all. There is comfort in the knowledge that no one can hurt you, that no one can see what has become of you. But there is something else, too, something you have begun to realize, in the silence. In the absence of others, you have been given a chance to rebuild. You have been given the time to look inward, to piece together the fragments of who you once were, to confront the parts of yourself you had long ignored. You have not been abandoned, not truly. The world has not turned its back on you. It has simply given you the space to find yourself again. It is not an easy process. There are days when you feel broken, when the weight of everything you have lost threatens to drown you. There are nights when you lie awake, the cold creeping into your bones, and wonder if it would be easier to simply let go. But then you remind yourself that it is not about ease. It is about survival. It is about finding a way to keep going, even when the world seems too heavy to bear. And so you walk. You walk through the woods, through the snow, through the quiet, as if to remind yourself that you are still here, that you still have the strength to move forward. You don't know where you are going, but that no longer matters. It is the act of walking, of taking each step, that is important now. Each step is a small defiance against the sickness, against the loneliness, against the fear that threatens to swallow you whole. The fire still burns low in the hearth, but it is enough to keep the chill at bay. The warmth is a comfort, a constant in your life, a reminder that even in the darkest of times there is always something that can bring light. You no longer wait for the world to come to you, for the village to return to the way it was. You no longer expect things to be different, but there is a shift within you, a quiet understanding that the world is still moving, still changing, and that you too are capable of change. Spring is coming, and though you cannot predict what it will bring, you feel the stirring of something new inside you. Perhaps it is hope, perhaps it is acceptance, perhaps it is something else entirely, something that has been dormant within you for so long, waiting for the right moment to awaken. You don't know. But whatever it is enough to keep you moving, enough to keep you alive. The world outside your window may still be a place of cold and isolation, but inside, you feel something stirring. You feel a pulse of life that refuses to be extinguished, a small but undeniable force that has been with you all along. The first true signs of spring come softly, like a breath exhaled after a long, oppressive silence. The sun begins to rise higher in the sky, casting a pale light across the snow-covered ground. It is a weak light, uncertain, as though the world itself is still unsure whether it is ready to emerge from the grasp of winter. But as the days stretch on, the warmth gradually finds its way back to the earth. The frost on the trees begins to melt, trickling down like tears from branches long frozen in place. The birds return, tentative at first, their songs hesitant as if testing the air before committing to the promise of warmer days. You stand at the door of your cottage, your hand resting on the frame as you watch the world outside slowly come to life again. The quiet that had dominated the winter now seems to shift into something else, something softer, something more fragile. The earth, the trees, the animals, all of them have been through their own kind of dormancy, their own kind of suffering, and yet they have returned. They have emerged from the cold with new life, with a resilience that is reflected in the very air around you. There is something humbling in this, a lesson in survival, in patience, in the quiet strength that the world offers in moments of stillness. You step outside, your feet crunching in the thawing snow. The ground is soft now, more giving, and you can feel the earth beneath you beginning to stir, as if it is waking from a long slumber. The wind carries a different scent now, no longer sharp and biting but softer, tinged with the first hints of flowers, of earth, of life. There is no hurry in the air, no frantic rush to push everything into motion. Everything moves at its own pace, in its own time, and you follow that rhythm, letting yourself be drawn into it. As you walk, you feel the stirrings of something you hadn't expected to feel, hope. It is a quiet hope, like the first light of dawn breaking over the horizon. It is not a grand, sweeping hope, not a promise that everything will return to the way it once was. It is a hope that acknowledges the difficulty, the pain, the struggle, but still dares to believe that something better can emerge from it. You have walked through the darkest of winters, through the sickness that has shaped you into something unrecognizable, and yet you are still here. You are still moving forward, one step at a time. The illness has not disappeared, nor have you forgotten the weight it has carried in your body. It still gnaws at you, still reminds you of its presence when you least expect it, but it no longer defines you in the way it once did. You have learned to live alongside it, to accept its place in your life without letting it consume you. You are no longer the victim of the sickness. You are a survivor of it, and that, in itself, is a victory. There are still moments when the loneliness feels overwhelming, when the absence of others is a sharp reminder of what you have lost. You think of the village, the people you once knew, and wonder if they are out there, living their lives, moving on without you. You wonder if they have forgotten you, or if they even know the story of your absence. But then you realize none of that matters anymore. You are no longer part of their world, and they are no longer part of yours. The ties that once bound you to them have frayed, and you no longer seek their approval or their acceptance. You have learned that the only person you need to answer to now is yourself. And as you walk through the woods, feeling the spring air on your face, you realize that this too is a kind of freedom. It is a freedom born of solitude, of knowing that you no longer need to explain yourself to anyone, no longer need to answer for the choices you have made. You walk alone, but you are not alone in the way you once feared. The world, in all its quiet beauty, is still there. It still offers you the chance to belong to it, even if it is in a different way, in a different form. You pause by the stream that runs through the woods, its water flowing more freely now, the ice long gone. The sound of the water is soothing, like a lullaby, gentle and constant. You crouch by its edge, your fingers brushing the cool surface of the water, and you are reminded of something important. You are still capable of feeling. You are still capable of experiencing beauty, of finding peace in the small things that the world offers. You are no longer trapped by the illness or the isolation. You are free in a way you had never imagined, free to experience life as it is now, with all its changes, its uncertainties, and its fleeting moments of grace. The sun is higher in the sky now, and the warmth it offers begins to seep into your bones. It feels like a gift, this warmth, as though the earth is giving back what it has taken away. You close your eyes for a moment, basking in the sunlight, and you allow yourself to simply be. There are no demands, no expectations. There is only the quiet rhythm of the world around you, the sound of the stream, the rustle of the leaves in the trees, and the pulse of your own heart. You are alive, you are breathing, you are here. And that, for now, is enough. As the day begins to fade and the evening draws near, you turn back toward the cottage, the world around you now bathed in the soft glow of twilight. The air is cooler, but not uncomfortably so. It is a soft, gentle evening, one that feels like a promise, one that tells you that even after the hardest of winters, after the darkest of nights, there is always a new beginning. There is always the chance to start again, to find peace, to find meaning in the simple act of living. And so you walk back to the cottage, the quiet night beginning to fall, and you realize that you are no longer searching for something you have lost. You are no longer searching for the person you once were. You have found something else instead, something new, something that is still taking shape. You are learning to be content with the unknown, to find comfort in the fact that you are still moving, still living, still growing. For the first time in a long while, you feel something close to joy. It is not the kind of joy you once knew, the kind that was bright and full of laughter. It is quieter, more reserved, but it is still joy. And in that quiet joy, you find the strength to face whatever the world has left for you, one step at a time. The days are growing warmer now, though the evenings still carry the cool breath of winter, a reminder that the earth has not fully let go of its frost. The transition between seasons is always delicate, as if the world itself cannot decide whether it should move forward or stay within the safety of the past. But the air is thick with the scent of new life, of earth waking from its long slumber. You can feel the stirrings beneath the surface, the faint pulse of growth that whispers through the soil, through the leaves, and through you. You have come to understand something profound in these quiet days. The world does not wait for you. It does not pause or stand still to give you time to heal, to find your way back. It continues to move forward, impervious to your pain, your struggle, your solitude. And yet it is in this very movement, in the ceaseless passing of time, that you find your strength. For every step the world takes, you are taking your own steps, even if they are smaller, more uncertain. But they are yours, and that is enough. The cottage remains your sanctuary, though its walls now feel more like a place of reflection than isolation. It has become a space where you can pause and take in the rhythm of the world, both the external and the internal. The fire is no longer a constant companion, and its absence leaves the room quieter, less intense. But there is a warmth that comes not from the hearth, but from the knowledge that you have survived, that you have endured. There is a peace in this knowledge, one that you did not expect to find, but one that has settled over you like a blanket. In the morning, the sunlight creeps through the small window, casting golden beams across the room, and you feel something stirring within you, a desire to move, to act, to take part in the world once again. It is a quiet desire, almost imperceptible at first, but it is there. You feel it in your bones, in the way your legs no longer ache as they did before, in the way your chest no longer feels heavy with the weight of the illness. It is not a complete healing, not by any means, but it is enough to remind you that you are still here, still capable of movement, of life. You spend more time in the woods these days. The trees seem less like strangers now and more like old friends, their leaves beginning to unfurl, their branches reaching out as if to welcome you back. The forest, once a place of cold and silence, is now filled with the hum of life, birds darting between branches, small creatures skittering through the underbrush, the gentle rustle of leaves as the wind moves through them. You have learned to listen to the quiet, to find meaning in the subtle sounds that surround you. You are no longer in a hurry to reach your destination, wherever it may be. You walk for the sake of walking, for the sake of feeling the earth beneath your feet and the air in your lungs. As you wander deeper into the woods, you come across a patch of flowers, delicate wildflowers, their colors soft and fragile against the backdrop of the forest. They seem to grow where the sunlight touches the earth, where the warmth of the season has coaxed them into bloom. For a moment you stand still, gazing at them, and in that moment you are reminded of something important. There is beauty in fragility. There is strength in softness. These flowers, delicate as they are, have pushed through the cold, through the frost, to emerge in this quiet, vibrant burst of life. And so too have you. You too have endured. You kneel down and touch the flowers, feeling the coolness of the petals against your skin. They are alive, fragile, and yet unyielding. They have survived the harshness of the winter just as you have, and in that you find a strange kind of solace. You are not alone in your struggle. You are not alone in your survival. The earth itself is a testament to resilience, to the quiet power of life that refuses to be extinguished, no matter how harsh the conditions. As you stand and continue your walk, a thought crosses your mind, one that you have been pushing away for some time now. The village, the people. It has been so long since you left, since you retreated into the solitude of your cottage, into the protective shell of isolation. You have convinced yourself that they have moved on, that they no longer remember you or care about what has become of you. And yet, a small part of you wonders if that is truly the case. You wonder if there is still a place for you in that world, in the world you once belonged to. You try not to entertain the thought, but it lingers like a soft whisper at the back of your mind. Perhaps you think you could return. Perhaps the village still remembers you, or at least remembers the man you once were. Perhaps you could find a way back into that world, into the rhythm of life that you once knew. But the thought is fleeting, as it always is. The fear rises again, fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of the disease that still lingers inside you. Would they accept you? Would they understand what you have been through? Would they see you as the man you once were, or as someone entirely different, someone unrecognizable? These questions swirl in your mind, but you don't have the answers. You may never have the answers, and for now, that is enough. You are not ready to make a decision, not yet. The world is still changing, still shifting beneath your feet, and you are still learning to live with it. The journey you are on is not one that can be rushed. It is a journey of understanding, of quiet self-discovery, and you are not ready to force it into any one direction. As the days pass, the world around you continues to change. The trees fill with leaves, the flowers bloom in patches of color, the birds sing louder, and the air grows warmer. And in this changing world, you continue to walk, to move, to live. You don't know where the path will lead or what lies ahead, but you know this: you are not the person you once were. You are something new, something different. And though you may not yet understand who that person is, you are beginning to see that you are not broken, not beyond repair. You are simply evolving as the earth evolves, as the seasons evolve. The days are passing slowly now, though you cannot say that you mind. There is a sense of peace in the quiet rhythm of your life, one that you never anticipated but have come to cherish. The world, once so daunting, now feels a little more like a place you can inhabit. The cold has retreated, replaced by the warmth of spring, and the air is filled with the sound of life. Birds singing, insects buzzing, the soft rustle of leaves in the breeze. There is a quiet hum of activity in the woods now, in the fields, in the very earth beneath your feet. Everything seems to be in motion, growing, changing, and you too find yourself growing. The illness still resides within you, but it is no longer the towering presence it once was. It has become something smaller, something you can carry with you, rather than something that defines your every breath. There are moments when the pain resurfaces, sharp, sudden, uninvited, but you are no longer afraid of it. It no longer controls you. You have learned, in your own way, to coexist with it. You no longer view it as an enemy, something to fight against, but as a part of you, a shadow that will always walk beside you. And in accepting it, you find a strange kind of freedom. The fear is gone, replaced by a quiet understanding that you will carry it with you for as long as it remains. And that, in itself, is an act of survival. In the mornings, the sunlight filters through the trees, casting dappled shadows across the forest floor. The woods are a different place now, less intimidating, more welcoming. You know every path now, every bend in the stream, every tree and rock. You have walked these woods countless times, and yet they never fail to offer something new. There is always a fresh perspective to be found, a new detail to notice. A bird's nest tucked away in a tree, a patch of wildflowers blooming in a hidden corner, the way the light changes as the sun rises higher in the sky. The woods have become a kind of sanctuary, a place where you can lose yourself and find yourself all at once. You no longer walk with the same sense of urgency that once defined your steps. When you first arrived in this place, everything felt like a battle. You were fighting against the disease, against the loneliness, against the fear that clung to you like a second skin. But now, there is a gentleness to your steps, a quiet acceptance that you are where you are meant to be, even if you do not fully understand why. The world is no longer something you need to conquer. It is something you need to coexist with, to understand, and to appreciate. And in that understanding, you find peace. The cottage has also changed. It is still small, still humble, but it feels different now. The walls, which once seemed like a prison, now feel like a safe haven, a place of solitude and refuge. The fire still burns low in the hearth, but its warmth is no longer all-consuming. It is a comfort, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always something to keep the cold at bay. The light of the fire flickers in the evenings, casting long shadows on the walls, and you sit by it, your thoughts wandering as you watch the flames dance. There is no hurry, no urgency to fill the silence. The quiet is no longer a threat. It is a companion, one you have learned to be at peace with. As the days lengthen and the world outside your door continues to bloom, you find yourself reflecting more and more on the journey that has brought you here. You think of the village, the life you once had, the people you once knew, and you realize how far you have come. You are no longer the person who left that world behind. You are someone different now, someone who has learned to survive, to endure, and to heal in ways you never thought possible. The loneliness still comes in waves, as it always has. There are moments when you long for the company of others, when the absence of human connection feels like an unbearable weight. You wonder at times if you could ever return to the village, to the life you once had. But those thoughts are fleeting now, like shadows that are quickly swallowed by the light. You know deep down that you cannot go back. That world, that life, is no longer yours. The person you were before the illness is gone, replaced by someone who is still learning what it means to be alive in a world that has changed. The path ahead is uncertain, but that is something you have come to accept. Life is always uncertain. The future is always shifting, always out of reach. But in the stillness of the present, in the quiet of the woods, in the warmth of the sun on your skin, you find that the uncertainty is not something to fear. It is simply a part of life, a part of being. And that, you realize, is enough. The village, the people, the life you once knew, they no longer define you. You are not defined by what you have lost, by the pain you have endured, or by the isolation you have lived in. You are defined by the fact that you are still here, still breathing, still moving through the world, even if it is a world that feels unfamiliar at times. You are defined by the fact that you have survived, and in that survival, there is a kind of quiet strength. You are stronger now, more resilient than you have ever been, even if you do not yet fully understand what that strength means. And so you walk. You walk through the woods, through the changing seasons, through the uncertainty. You walk because that is what you do. You walk because you have no other choice. And with each step, you feel a little lighter, a little freer, a little more at peace with the world and with yourself. The quiet rhythm of life has become something you can rely on now, like the steady beat of a drum that guides your steps. There is no longer a need to race, no longer a need to rush towards some unknown destination. Life, in its simplest form, is enough. The forest, with its ever-shifting light, has become your map, your guide, your companion. And though the road ahead is still obscured, you feel a deep sense of peace in the uncertainty. It is as if the world itself has invited you to walk at your own pace, to listen to the whispers of the earth, to absorb the silence that surrounds you without fear. The mornings, though still cool, have begun to carry the promise of warmth. Each dawn seems to usher in a new possibility, a new chapter in your story, though you are unsure what that chapter will hold. You have learned not to expect too much from the future, for it has a way of surprising you, of twisting in ways you cannot predict. Instead, you allow yourself to focus on the present, on what is immediately before you. The dew on the grass, the fresh scent of the earth as it wakes from its long winter sleep, the way the light filters through the trees in delicate, golden threads. These small moments are where you find your peace now. You find yourself smiling more often, though you cannot remember the last time a smile felt like anything but an effort. It comes slowly, hesitantly, but it comes nonetheless. And with it you feel something stirring inside you, an old feeling, one you had thought long buried. It is hope. Not the wild, reckless hope of youth, but a quieter, more grounded hope. A hope that is rooted in survival, in endurance. A hope that recognizes the scars, the pain, the losses, and still dares to believe that there is something worth holding on to. It is not a hope that promises everything will be as it once was, but rather a hope that the future, though uncertain, can still hold moments of grace. As you walk deeper into the woods, you come across a clearing you have not noticed before. The sunlight spills into the open space, bathing the wildflowers that grow there in a soft glow. The air is filled with the hum of insects, the rustling of the leaves in the breeze. It is a peaceful place, one that seems to hold its own kind of magic. You stop for a moment, letting the tranquility wash over you, and for the first time in a long while, you feel something you have not felt in years, a sense of belonging. Not belonging to a place, not belonging to a community, but simply belonging to the earth itself, to the natural rhythm of life that pulses through every living thing. You sit down in the grass, your back against a tree, and close your eyes. The soft sounds of the forest surround you, the chirping of birds, the rustling of leaves, the distant gurgle of a stream. You breathe in deeply, filling your lungs with the clean, fresh air, and for a moment you are weightless. The illness, the pain, the loneliness, they all fade into the background. The only thing that matters now is the simple act of being alive, being present in the world, and for that you are grateful. The days continue to lengthen, and with each passing one, you feel yourself becoming more attuned to the world around you. You begin to notice things you had not before, the way the light shifts throughout the day, the subtle changes in the air, the way the animals move through the underbrush. There is a quiet order to the world, one that you had never fully appreciated until now. Everything has its place, its rhythm, its purpose. And though you are no longer certain of your own place in that order, you begin to realize that it does not matter. You are here, and that is enough. You have learned that there is no right way to live, no perfect path to follow. There is only the path you create for yourself, step by step, day by day. The past, with its pain and its suffering, no longer has the power to define you. The future, with its uncertainties and its unknowns, no longer frightens you. You are no longer afraid of being lost, because you have come to understand that being lost is simply another way of being. It is another step on the journey, another part of the whole. And so you walk, you LK, without a destination, without a goal, but with a quiet sense of purpose nonetheless. The world is vast, and you are but one small part of it, but you have come to realize that your place in it is important, simply because it is yours. The world may not always be kind, but it is beautiful in its imperfection, in its fleeting moments of grace. And for that, you are grateful. You walk not because you have to, but because you want to. You walk because you are alive, and because every step is a small victory, a reminder that you are still here. As you make your way back to the cottage, the sun begins to dip below the horizon, casting the sky in shades of pink and orange. The night will soon be upon you, but for now you are content to walk in the last light of the day, feeling the earth beneath your feet and the cool breeze on your skin. The day has been good, simple, quiet, and that is enough. There is no need to rush, no need to hurry. The world will move at its own pace, as it always does, and you too will move at your own pace, trusting that the journey will unfold as it is meant to. For now, there is only the present, only the simple act of being, of breathing, of living, and that is enough. As the days slip by, you begin to feel a subtle change within yourself. The person you were in the early days of your solitude, the one consumed by the weight of the past, by the fear of the disease, the fear of the future, is no longer as familiar to you. It's as though that person, fragile and afraid, has faded away, leaving behind someone different, stronger, perhaps not healed, but certainly more whole. You cannot pinpoint the exact moment it happened, but you know that you have crossed a threshold, and you are no longer the person who was lost in despair. The ache of loneliness still visits you at times, but it no longer holds you in its grip. You now understand something that once seemed impossible, that the heart can stretch, it can break and heal, and it can find room to carry more than it once thought it could. In the quiet of the evenings, as the last rays of sunlight disappear behind the horizon, you often find yourself gazing into the distance, wondering about what lies beyond the edges of the forest. There is still a part of you that longs for connection, for the warmth of a conversation, the laughter of friends, the shared moments of human connection. It is a longing that stirs deep within your chest, a longing that sometimes feels almost unbearable. But you have learned to live with it, as you have learned to live with the pain. It is a part of you now, like the shadows that stretch across the land as night falls. The longing will never completely disappear, but neither will you allow it to consume you. One afternoon, while walking through the forest, you come across a small clearing you have never seen before. It is hidden, tucked away between two thick clusters of trees, as if the world has deliberately kept it secret. You pause at the edge of the clearing, taking in the sight before you. A small stream winds its way through the center, its waters glimmering in the sunlight. Wildflowers, delicate and vibrant, grow in clusters along its banks, their colors a stark contrast to the deep greens and browns of the surrounding woods. You can hear the soft murmur of the water, the rustle of leaves in the breeze, and the faint chirping of birds in the distance. For a moment you are struck by the beauty of it, the simple beauty. It feels like a secret that the earth itself is sharing with you. You stand there unmoving, allowing yourself to absorb the peace that radiates from this place. It is as though the world has paused for you just for a moment to allow you to breathe, to take in the fullness of life, of the present. The ache in your chest, the longing, the fear, the disease, they all seem to fade into the background. There is no past, there is no future, there is only now. You sit down on a rock by the stream, your hands resting on your knees, your eyes closed for a moment as you listen to the sounds of the forest. Time seems to stretch and bend, and you feel as though you have stepped out of the flow of it. You are here in this moment and nothing else matters. It is a strange feeling, one you have not known for a long time. It is a reminder that, even in the midst of uncertainty, there are moments of absolute clarity, moments where everything feels exactly as it should. In these moments, you understand what it means to be alive. The days continue to pass, and with each one you grow more attuned to the subtle rhythms of the world around you. The seasons are shifting, the air growing warmer, the trees filling with new life. There is a quiet kind of beauty in the way the earth changes, in the way the world continues to move forward, no matter the obstacles, no matter the pain. It is a reminder that life does not stop for anyone, and it does not pause for grief, for loss, for illness. It simply moves, it simply continues. And you too are a part of that movement. You spend more time outside now, walking through the woods, sitting by the stream, letting the world wash over you. You are learning slowly to appreciate the small things, the way the light filters through the trees in the morning, the sound of the birds at dusk, the way the earth smells after a rainstorm. These moments, so simple and fleeting, are treasures. They are life in all its quiet, unassuming glory. But there are still moments of doubt, of fear. There are still times when the past rises up to confront you, when the illness feels like a shadow that you cannot escape. There are days when you wonder if you are fooling yourself, if this peace you have found is just an illusion. But then you remember that the earth too has its seasons of doubt and struggle. There are times when the trees lose their leaves, when the earth lies fallow, when the world seems to hold its breath. But it does not last. The seasons change. Life returns. And so too will your peace, no matter how fleeting it may seem at times. You think at times of the village, of the people you once knew. The thought lingers in your mind like a distant echo, but you do not chase it. You do not let it consume you. You know that the world you once belonged to is no longer the world you inhabit. You have moved beyond it, and it has moved beyond you. The illness, too, has shaped you in ways you could not have imagined. It has changed you for better or for worse, but it has made you stronger. It has given you the ability to survive, to endure, to live. You are not the same person who left the village. You are someone new, someone different. And though you may not yet fully understand who that person is, you accept them just as you accept the changing seasons, the passing days, the ebb and flow of life. You know that you are a part of this world, and that, in itself, is enough. The sun begins to set, casting the sky in shades of gold and pink. You watch it as you have watched so many sunsets before, and for the first time in a long while you feel something close to contentment. It is not a wild joy, nor is it a sense of complete peace, but it is enough. It is the quiet acknowledgement that you are here in this moment, and that is enough. The world is still turning. The days are still passing. And you too are still here, still moving forward step by step. Time seems to stretch further now, as though the very fabric of your days has loosened. You have no sense of how long it's been since you first set foot in this solitude, no real understanding of the number of seasons that have passed, or the exact count of days since the illness first took hold of you. The days blend together, forming a tapestry of quiet, subtle changes. Each one is a thread in the larger fabric of your life now, and none of them feel particularly significant on their own. But when you step back and look at the pattern, you begin to see something new. A life that has taken root, quietly and without fanfare, like the sapling trees that have begun to dot the forest floor. The solitude is no longer a burden, nor is it a source of deep longing. It is simply part of your existence. You have settled into it, like a traveler who has come to understand the rhythms of a distant land. You no longer feel the weight of it pressing down on you in the same way it once did. Instead, there is an almost peaceful acceptance of it. You have learned to live with your own company, and in doing so, you have learned a great deal about yourself. In the mornings, the world seems to be reborn. The sunlight streams through the trees in brilliant shafts, casting long, intricate shadows on the ground. The birds are awake early, their songs filling the air with a sense of joy, of life that continues to bloom and thrive. You take a deep breath, savoring the crispness of the morning air, the way it fills your lungs with freshness, with possibility. You can almost feel the earth shifting beneath you, alive and teeming with energy. It is a quiet, steady energy that moves through everything. You have seen the forest go through its own cycles of life and death, and you too have experienced your own cycles of grief and healing. There are times when you feel the weight of the illness on your body, its unyielding presence in your veins, a reminder that it is always there, always a part of you. But there are also times when you forget it, when it becomes a distant memory, an echo of the past that no longer has the power to control you. It is in these moments that you realize how far you have come. You have learned to carry your pain without it owning you. You have learned to move through the world, even with the shadow of illness following you. The physical toll of the disease has lessened over time. The feverish days have become fewer, the constant ache in your limbs now just a dull throb in the background of your thoughts. The disease no longer commands your attention the way it once did. But there are scars, both on your body and on your heart, and you know that they will always be with you. But instead of fearing them, you have come to see them as marks of survival. They are the evidence of your endurance, of your ability to weather the storm and emerge on the other side. They are reminders of your strength. The isolation you once dreaded has become something you cherish in ways you could never have imagined. You have learned to savor the quiet, to find comfort in the absence of noise. The days are long, but they are never dull. There is always something to see, something to experience, something to learn. Even in the stillness, there is motion. Life continues, the world moves forward, and you move with it, step by slow step. But there are moments when the past rises up to haunt you. They are not often, but they come in waves, in fleeting moments when you least expect them. Sometimes it is a fleeting memory, someone's face, a touch, a voice you haven't heard in what feels like forever. It's like a whisper in the wind, calling you back to a time you can never return to. The village, the people, the life you once had, they all come to you in flashes, like a dream that fades when you wake. You wonder sometimes if you will ever truly leave it behind, if you will ever stop longing for the things that are now out of reach. But you know now with a certainty that comes only with time that you cannot go back. That world is no longer yours. The illness has changed you, and the isolation has shaped you into someone new. You may carry the echoes of that life with you, but you cannot live in the past. The present is all that matters now, and you have come to understand that it is in the present that you must find your meaning. You cannot wait for the future, for it is an unknown. You cannot dwell in the past, for it is gone. All you have is now, and that is enough. The forest has become your sanctuary, your home. It is not a perfect place, nor is it a place free from danger, but it is a place where you have found yourself again. The trees stand tall and watchful, their branches reaching for the sky as though in silent prayer. The animals, though often elusive, are your companions in their own way. You are no longer a stranger in these woods. You have come to understand their language, their rhythms. You know where the animals sleep, where the berries grow, where the water is clear and cold. The forest, in all its mystery and silence, has become a part of you. You have come to accept that life will always be filled with uncertainties. There will always be pain, always be loss. There will be moments of doubt, moments of fear. But you have learned something important during these long days of solitude. You have learned that there is strength in embracing the unknown, in moving forward even when you cannot see the path ahead. You do not need to know what the future holds. You do not need to have all the answers. All you need to do is keep moving, keep walking, keep living. And so you walk because you can. You walk because it is all you can do, and in doing so you find a quiet sense of peace, a sense of purpose. The road ahead may be long and it may be uncertain, but you are no longer afraid of it. You know now that whatever happens, you will find a way to survive. You will continue to walk one step at a time through the changing seasons, through the quiet of the forest, through the ever-present uncertainty. And that, you think, is enough. The seasons have shifted once more, and the world around you is again changing. The trees have shed their leaves, leaving behind stark branches that stretch toward the sky like silent, skeletal arms. The wind has grown colder, and the air carries a crispness that stings the skin, a reminder that winter is near. Yet, despite the chill that wraps itself around your bones, there is a warmth within you that refuses to be extinguished. It is a quiet warmth, like the ember of a fire that refuses to die, even when the night is long and cold. This warmth is your strength, and it has been forged over time, through days of struggle, through moments of doubt, through the weight of the past that you have carried and learned to carry without letting it break you. In the evenings, as the sun sinks low and the world is bathed in the soft light of dusk, you sit outside watching the changing sky. The colors shift, pinks and purples bleeding into deep blues and blacks, until the stars begin to emerge, twinkling like scattered diamonds above. The forest is quiet now, a hush settling over the land as though the world itself is preparing for the stillness of winter. There are no birds singing, no animals rustling in the underbrush. Only the wind whispering through the trees, and the faint sound of your own breath as it rises and falls. It is in these moments of solitude that you feel the weight of time, of life itself. You think of everything that has brought you to this point, the illness, the isolation, the fear. You think of the village, of the people who once filled your life with noise and laughter, and you wonder for just a moment what they are doing now. But the thought is fleeting, like the shadow of a cloud passing across the sun. You know that your path is no longer theirs, and that the road ahead is one you must walk alone. It is a strange and sometimes lonely road, but it is yours. And yet, even in this solitude, you have learned something invaluable. You have learned that you are not alone in this world, not truly. There is a connection that runs through everything, the trees, the animals, the earth beneath your feet, the very air that fills your lungs. You are part of a greater whole, a part of a world that moves in its own quiet, unbroken rhythm. You are not isolated in your struggle. You are connected to all things, to all life, to all of time. And though you walk your path alone, you are never truly alone. The disease that once threatened to destroy you has not won. It has left its mark, yes, but it has not taken you. You are still here, still breathing, still walking. It has made you stronger, more resilient, more aware of your own strength. You have learned to endure, to survive, to live, and in doing so, you have found something unexpected: peace. Not the peace that comes from the absence of pain, but the peace that comes from accepting it, from understanding that pain is a part of life, just as joy and beauty are. The peace that comes from knowing that you are capable of withstanding it, of moving through it, and coming out the other side stronger. As winter draws near, you prepare yourself for the cold. The small cottage has become your home, your refuge. You gather what you need: food, firewood, blankets, knowing that the harsh days of winter will soon arrive. But even as the nights grow longer and the days shorter, there is no fear in your heart. You have come to understand that every season, no matter how difficult, will eventually pass. The snow may come, and the world may become quiet and still, but spring will always follow. The earth will always begin again, and so will you. The nights, though long and cold, are filled with the comforting crackle of the fire and the soft rhythm of your breathing. You spend the evenings in quiet reflection, thinking of all that you have learned. You have learned how to survive, how to endure. You have learned the importance of resilience, of finding strength in the face of hardship. But most importantly, you have learned that peace is not something that is given to you. It is something you must create for yourself, something you must find in the small moments, in the quiet of the night, in the flickering light of the fire. You think sometimes of the people you once knew and of what could have been. There are moments when you wonder what life would have been like if things had been different, if the disease had never come, if you had never been forced to leave the village, if the world had stayed the same. But these thoughts no longer have the power to haunt you. You know now that you cannot change the past. You can only move forward. You can only live the life that is before you in the present, and in that you find freedom. The days pass and the winter deepens. The forest becomes quiet and still, the earth resting beneath its blanket of snow. But you are not idle. You have learned to use this time to reflect, to prepare for the spring that will eventually come. You know that life is a cycle, that the seasons change, and that you too will change. The road ahead is still uncertain, but you have learned to accept that uncertainty. It no longer frightens you. It is simply another part of the journey, another step along the path. And you will walk it, just as you have walked every other step before it. As the last of the daylight fades and the stars twinkle above, you sit outside once more, your eyes turned upward. There is peace in the silence, in the stillness of the night. The forest, the world, everything around you seems to be waiting, holding its breath. And you too are waiting for the next season, waiting for the next chapter in your life to unfold. But there is no hurry, there is no rush. The journey, you know, is long, and it is enough. For the first time in a long while, you smile. It is a small, quiet smile, but it is genuine. It is the smile of someone who has learned to live with their scars, who has learned to find peace in the midst of chaos, who has learned that survival is not just about enduring, it is about living. And as you sit there, surrounded by the vast, silent forest, you know that no matter what happens next, you will face it. You will walk forward step by step, through every season, through every storm. And you will live.